Welcome back. This is another brand new week of the Overwatch League. My name is George, joined by Hex. He's back again. I'm excited to cast alongside you. And we're about to get into our first game of the day. And the first game to start out this weekend too, Titans Boston.
Yeah, it's nice to be back on the day shift here today. This is the last week of regular season play for the Overwatch League, and we're going to kick it off with a banger. It's 11 versus 13. Now, Jack, give me a second to try to sell this one to the people here, because Boston is going to be in 13, right? 2 wins all regular season. Not great. Those wins, ironically enough, over the Gladiators, which we'll see later today, and Houston, which they want to overtake in the standings. Now, what do they have to play for? Boston, nothing. You're dead last. That's going to happen. These are your current standings. These are how the brackets break down. Top 5 teams get to skip knockouts. Middle teams have to knock out, and then the bottom teams have to definitely go to knockouts. The Titans can get into the 10th. And why does 10th matter? 10th means you get to pick your opponent from the remaining 3 in that bottom tier. Now, if you're the Titans, you would rather face Boston again, because Boston has not looked like they're improving, whereas the Justice and the Outlaws are the proverbial wild cards, and I think they could take matches and maps off anyone. So if the Titans can win out their series, they will move into the 10th spot, which is slightly important. Granted, it is still a bit of an El Clasico.
Yeah. The Titans really have, and I like the way you put it, they can take off maps off big teams. I think it's quite interesting to look at how we're going to move forward into the new meta, into the playoffs, X, because there's a few little shake-ups here and there, but we are still currently on the old patch with the hero bans as well, or hero rotation, sorry. Shockwave, of course, has been the backbone of the Titans, and I don't think you could really argue, Hex. Shockwave is definitely the best player on the team for the Titans, and when he's having a good day, the rest of the Titans are having a good day.
Oh, absolutely, and I think the way he plays Ashe is so fun to watch. He takes very aggressive, strange angles. They don't expect him to be where he is, and then he punishes teams by hitting the shots he has to make. He's been a revelation for his team ever since he came in and started playing Echo, and it's kind of put Dalton in a very strange spot, but I mean, the head-to-head Ashe is what the meta is going to be about, and the dynamite value and Bob value from Shockwave specifically have been, well, just amazing. He leads the league.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy for a team that's in the bottom half of the league, right? Or like the bottom quarter even, to be fair. First and dynamite kills, Bob kills looking great, eliminations looking great. I mean, it's just, for a team that's underperforming, Shockwave is not. I think, like I said, he is definitely the best player on his team currently, and it's going to be about supporting him. I'm very curious to see how they're going to face up against Jerry, because it is Shockwave and Jerry show. This is going to be it against the Boston Uprising. We'll have a look who Titans are going to field today, though. Not going to be any changes. I'd be very surprised, considering Plus is just around the corner, Hex, to see any changes from most teams. Of course, you can definitely count out Shock in that instance, but we have Shockwave, Dalton, Treadlock, KSA, and of course, to round out the supports, we have Rolf and Kaka.
Yeah, not a whole lot of roster depth for either of these teams either, so I don't expect to see substitutions. Like, this is the 6 you're going to roll with. My question is going into today, what is Dalton going to play? Because Shockwave and Dalton have these overlapping long-range hit scan ideas. I think it was going to bring in Shockwave to play the projectile heroes, and that's kind of what Dalton is more the hit scan, but now can you overlap it? They have played a couple of maps where they run a Widow and an Ashe, and they have one of the more capable lineups of doing it, and Dalton's Sombra has improved steadily over the time he's played it.
Let's have a look at Boston's starters, though, who they're playing up against today. Jerry, Color X, Fusions, Punk, Halo, and Myunbong. Of course, like I said, there's not going to be any changes, Hex. The depth of roster isn't as what it once was. We have Mikey sitting on the bench, but they've been running this roster for as long as I can remember at this point. There's never going to be changes. I was always excited to see Punk come into the lineup, but Boston, they just need to show up. They're 2-18 currently. And Josh was saying on the desk, like, they're almost rivaling the Shanghai Dragons in the performance of the team, right? Boston, they need to do it, X. They just need to win. I'm rooting for him, and it's always nice to root for the underdogs at the end of the day, right? And I think there's going to be a soft spot in a lot of people's hearts to cheer on Boston, especially coming into the later weeks.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes an underdog, and everyone likes a redemption story, too. So, like I said, Uprising has beat the LA Gladiators and Houston Outlaws, and maybe that says more about the Gladiators and Outlaws than it does about Boston, but you never know when the meta shifts, as it will most likely, almost definitely, almost certainly shift when we go into the playoff picture and the knockout rounds. Like, Boston still gets to play in the knockout rounds, and who knows what can happen. We're going to kick it off on Nepal. Both of these teams struggled on Oasis last week because teams were running a variation of the Mei. And as we enter into this particular round of Nepal, it's likely we might see some Mei as well, because point with the ice wall.
Yeah, Titans are actually 0-4 on this map specifically, and you can see they're Uprising 2-2. So good looks currently for the Uprising as they do roll out. And yeah, I think May is going to be the order of the day here. Jerry potentially staying on the Sim 2. It's one of the only maps in the game, really, you can field both these DPS and have it be so effective, just because the way the point just exists in a small little box with two big doorways, you know, and the May can perfectly wall people off. Unless Jerry just wants to teleport people forward, of course, and then change. Looks like he's going to do that. Actually roll out on the McCree instead. Titans are going to roll out with the Sim, and in fact, Shockwave on the Junk. They meet each other in the mid-fight, and they're trying to get through the wall to start off with, but this microwave from Dalton is going to put so much pressure on the tanks. You can see Fusion and Punk already falling low, and Bjorn forced to use the Immortality field fairly early as well. And there you go, the mine straight over the top. Fusion's Color Hex, they're already dead.
Yeah, it's a really good start for the Vancouver Titans, as now they are going to have point control. Of course, this is the map that we saw the Gladiators run something very similar, get a teleported tire as well. Dalton is going to be able to put on the turrets on the point. Shockwave going to put on all that spam, and it kind of makes your wall a little bit useless. When Dalton gets charged up off of the double shield Boston's running, he can break down those pillars really easily, and also all the damage that Shockwave's able to put out. Boston's going to make a Junkrat of their own.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well. But Junkrat defense is way better. Look at this spam. I think one of the most frustrating things about the Junk is just the random hitting off the walls and landing on your support's faces. That's definitely what I feel most of the time. Junkrat's so annoying. Or at least annoying to play against, of course. I believe we have lost Hex, so it's just me at the moment. There is a tire.
I think I'm back.
Coming out. Oh no, he's back. Yes.
Yeah.
Shockwave is going to launch the tire in. However, Fusion's, luckily enough, pressed the shift key. Bit of damage reduction, able to survive that one as he goes golden, or bright blue in this case. Jerry on the high ground looking for the flank. Nice little combo with Color Hex. However, Jerry's still up on the high ground. Someone needs to kill him, or at least drag him back down. There we go. But the damage really is already there. Karkar, Shredlock, and Dalton end up going down. There will be Boston capping the point.
Yeah, you see Shockwave dropping a little LOL in the chat there. That's because Color Hex died to the passive of Junkrat, which a lot of people even forget about. He drops bombs when he dies. I believe it's called Total Mayhem or something along those lines. Color Hex died for it, but it matters not, as his team is now in control of the points. Now, Dalton does have the wall. A nice little angle onto the point here for the Giant Symmetra Shield.
Oh, man. That sucks losing Karkar so early, though. Big wall, though. However, the Immortality field comes out on the side, so the tank's going to be saved. Jerry setting up for a Deadeye, potentially. And even Punk with the Flux is going to dish out some major damage as soon as they get rid of those turrets. Someone needs to kill the turrets, by the way. Fusion was just getting owned. Like, there were two turrets just looking at him, just doing so much damage. And then the Sim, of course, just shooting through the shields. Ideally, there you want Punk or Color Hex just fire a few left clicks just to try and kill the turrets, because they rack up in damage. Like, that's a whole bunch, and they only have 5 HP as well, so any kind of splash damage will end up taking them out, but they kind of ignored them, and Vancouver Titans were able to just take the point as Houston Fusions went down, so now they're up to 80% with 1 fight remaining now.
Okay, this is going to be a theme of today, because both of these teams really rely on Supercharger to win fights. Both these teams have Supercharger. Watch the positioning. You want to use Architecture to hide your Supercharger behind, rather than just which can be cracked down. But both these teams definitely swing here. Vancouver drops.
Oh no, the tire. This finds one. It might just be all over. He's hunting for Jerry, but doesn't quite find him. And Halo's already dead. Shockwave sends the tire into the back line. Immortality field is broken, but so it's Fusions. Unfortunately now, Boston Uprising don't really have a front line to deal with, or to deal with Vancouver Titans, in fact. And hey, they got ult to spare too. They can chuck out the window, but they don't even need it. Flux and Beat were still available for the Titans there, as Uprising just couldn't even make their way onto the point. A tire did so much to kind of push away the supports from the Boston Uprising, and Fusion just walked into his death, but that is really up the Orisa there. You have to push onto the point because you have to touch. You're in almost a lose-lose situation, and they even had to use the Immortality field to save their support from the Riptire as well. Tough spot for Boston to be in. Vancouver Titans end up taking Village, and now we're going over to Shrine. I can't hear Hex. Maybe he's talking, maybe he's not. I'm not sure, so maybe it's just me. I think we've lost him. It's just me. Yay. Just what you've always wanted. Just me talking about Overwatch. It's going to sound like me in your rank games. I'm going to start complaining in a minute. Nice little halts. Both teams are making their way to the point, of course. And now it's just the duel of the maze and who can get the best wall off. Nice little wall onto Fusions there. Forced out so much, in fact. Fusions had to press shift and the Immortality field was used also. But they're going to have to save their own Orisa. Shredlock going fairly low, but Shockwave falls first. And now it's in a good position for Uprising. They can basically just hold W here. No fear of anything else. And I like the Kree in these comps, by the way. I will say that. The Kree, obviously, with the flashbang does not only a lot of work in CCing people, but it can really just aid the shield break too. You can basically just play right-click McCree, where you just sit there right-clicking, roll, right-click, reload, and just make sure the shields instantly go down. And now Boston Uprising, at least they have Window. And this is kind of a precarious position to put Window in. Jerry's kind of questioning Myungbong. You see him looking dead into the eyes and like, you sure about this, pal? Maybe we have Hex back now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, write a letter to your congressman about internet reform, please, because it's been an issue. If we have it again, we might just have to sub somebody in. But I'd like to continue to cast today if we can. A nice wall to block off Jerry's angle.
Oh, well, Karkar peeked around the wall. He wondered what was going on around there. Double glaze he's put up on the high ground, but it doesn't matter because Dalton finds 3 people. That was a beautiful off-angle Hex from Uprising there, trying to get a lot of damage down, but that was all on Dalton. Not only just getting the kills there, but actually stopping a lot of that damage from going through because he just put up a wall straight in front of the window.
Yeah, very nice to take out Jerry there, and yeah, I didn't even see the end of the last match because Vancouver is up on this. It is worth noting that Boston has never taken a map off Vancouver, so as bad as Vancouver is on Nepal, something has to break here today. Now, Boston is going to try to get back in here. They do have the Flux a little bit faster. A Flux into a Deadeye, the Sky Noon could be really nice.
Yeah, but I think ideally here, Vancouver Titans just want to go fast, use this Blizzard, then build up towards the next another one. There's the Blizzard, straight on top. The wall is actually going to block off the main tank. However, Shredlock is going to be able to get through it because the rest of Bottom Horizon are frozen. Beautiful Flux, however, even more beautiful rock there from Punk's going to open up with a Flux of his own. Shockwave scurrying for cover as he tries not to get Flux and taking it off angle. He takes out Myungbong. Halo's already dead as well. So Boston Uprising now, no healers at all. So they're going to have to make do with the health pool that they do have. They decide to reset. Shockwave tries to get the last hit on Punk there to get the ult charge, but it doesn't end up working out. Vancouver Titans use a whole bunch, but they've still got Window, Bob, and the Beat coming into this next fight.
Yeah, and that's the off angle I was talking about with Shockwave. He's one of the most ambitious, aggressive Ashes, and yeah, we kind of looked over his deaths stats on Ashe. He is 28th in the league. He does die the most often on the Ashe, but you know, you kind of take the good with the bad when it comes to Shockwave's Ashe and taking those angles. Boston has every ult that they should want here, but a nice wall.
I need through Window though. Oh my god, it like instantly charges up. He lets it loose, but doesn't do anything. I think it just hit Shredlock, but it didn't do a whole lot of damage. Shockwave still with its beautiful off angle. The Dynamite will actually kill Jerry. He didn't actually receive the beat as Halo marches everybody forward. Fusion's frozen up and end up killing off, and that Bob sitting at the front of the point as well, just forcing Boston Uprising to split. The Titans, they're at 95%. They won this team fight. They got ults coming up as well. Punk's going to fall down last. And that will be the Titans, unless someone from the Boston Uprising in touch. It's Myungbong, but he gets quickly dealt with. OT's ticking down, and the Titans are going to claim map 1.
As I said, Boston has never beaten the Vancouver Titans. Last time they faced off was in the Countdown Cup, and Vancouver was able to take that knockout round qualifier 3-0. Boston still struggling to find any sort of purchase, even in these mirror matches, and it's just so fun to watch Shockwave. I was having a discussion with some people last night of, hey, what happens to Shockwave next year? And I'm like, well, I'd imagine he's probably going to be a free agent based on the rebuilding process that Vancouver went through this year. And if you're looking for innovative, young, aggressive talent on the damage line, his name's got to be at the top of the list there, Joss.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to play on good ping, hopefully, as well. I mean, you got to remember, he's still in Denmark, and he's adapted just so well. Normally, hit scan's kind of a weird role to adapt to on ping. Tracer's pretty usable, but things like Ashe and Widowmaker, the like long-range hit scan, can be a little bit less so. We're going to jump to a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We've got map number 2 coming up soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
You just gotta keep moving forward.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Boston Uprising up against the Vancouver Titans. They still have stuff to play for. Boston Uprising still need a delicious win. However, Vancouver Titans looking pretty good to start out the day on Control, taking it 2-0 as well. So pretty dominant, and that's the first time they've won that map too against Boston Uprising. So yeah, not a bad start whatsoever. They're 1-4 currently on the ball as we head into Watch Point Gibraltar, which is our next one.
Yeah, and you know, Boston, if they can pull out a victory, does a lot for their confidence going forward. Again, all of these teams will be able to participate in our end-of-year tournament, but it's kind of tiered that you get to a couple bye weeks if you're the best, one bye week if you're the middle tier, and then you have to play immediately if you're one of these bottom four teams. Vancouver, again, still trying to get that 10th spot, which means they get to pick their opponent for those very first knockout rounds. We're guessing it's going to, well, not guessing, it's going to be Boston, Vancouver, and Houston among those, and so I do think, like, if Vancouver is able to beat Boston, and then their next match should take that 10 spot, you'd imagine they pick Boston again to try to move on and get some momentum.
Yeah, that situation of you like obviously not getting buys is so treacherous, and I think that can weigh on you quite a bit, right? I mean, you look at that borderline, that red border that we had, it's like, oh, it's so close, is it reaching distance? You know, you need your couple of wins, and Titans, you know, they can do it, and we have seen them take maps off good teams. I do have a lot of faith in the Titans, especially being able to rebuild as well, by the way. What a ridiculous feat for the Titans to do that. I mean, rebuilding an entire roster, and then obviously importing players too. Of course, KSA from Saudi Arabia, you have a lot of players that we've seen before in contenders, like Dalton, for example. He's been around the scene for a long time. Karkar, of course. Rolf, just a veteran in his own right, playing all the way back in Apex. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to see a lot of these players being kind of smushed together and then performing well against teams you didn't think they would be able to in such a short period of time as well, getting to know each other. So, you know, props to the Titans being able to do so. Of course, 5-14, not the best scoreline in the world, of course, in the Overwatch League, but it's still a scoreline I think you can be proud of, considering how late on you were actually formed as a squad.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people gave the Titans a lot of breathing room. They're like, look, it's a team that just kind of got thrown together. We're not going to blame the players for any of this, and the players have come on pretty strong, and several of them have made good names for themselves. I think most importantly, early on, there were a lot of struggles with the support line, but that just takes time to gel and to know where your other support is, to know how to peel for each other. That's improved. I think Shredlock is another nice bright spot for this team, and we'll see what they want to run. It's going to be Widow v. Widow, so that is the marquee matchup to look at as we're on Gibraltar. Dive Tanks and Widows are going to be the order of the day.
Oh, yes, they are. This is the matchup I wanted to see, Shockwave versus Jerry. And yeah, like I want to really quickly touch on it again. Like, the ping is just crazy for the Titans, right? Like, KSA is halfway around the world. Shockwave as well, it feels like. But being able to adapt like this and find kills, that's unfortunate right there. Being able to adapt is just kind of crazy. Beautiful bubble actually there to get the res up. But Karkar flies to his team and ends up getting headshot.
I mean, the bubble's there to protect the resurrection. I don't know why you would fly away from the protection there, and Karkar just goes down. It's not too terrible. It doesn't slow them down all that much, as they're just taking the free push through the car wash. And, you know, eventually, Mercy's got great mobility. She'll be able to get back into the fray. It's just, it's an unforced error you don't like to see.
No, you do not. But now this perfect situation for Boston, right, because they can have Widow set up on the high ground. Although I say a high ground, Jerry's on low right now. He knows Shredlock and KSA will be on blue box at some point, so there's not really much point him being there. He's just going to get dove, and then he's going to require support. Sight's going to come out for Vancouver Titans, so at least they know where everybody is. Nice little headshot there on Fusions, but that damage resistance doing a whole lot of work. Rolf and Dalton end up going down. Should be the push for the Boston Uprising at this point. Shredlock's even purple as well, but a nice little res onto Rolf. Might be able to turn this one around as they're able to regroup around blue box.
Well, Shockwave's got sights, actually, they just wore off, so if he can get a pick, they definitely can, and they're going to go after it, but a beautiful sleep.
Ain't happening. Karkar's going to go down. However, that bio grenade is going to land straight on the head of Shredlock, and he's got Primal Rage coming up, but Shockwave manages to find the kill onto Jerry, but again, Halo is right there in the wings waiting for the res. Boston Uprising still doing a good job of fending off the Titans. 2 minutes remains in the Titans' time back, and it feels like this map, man, like, how many first point holds do we see? This very much could be the same situation again, as we've got EMP coming up for Uprising here. If they launch it out first, maybe with a self-destruct, they're going to be able to win the preceding fight and draw this time back out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Talladega Nights of maps, right? It's either going to be first point or last point. If you're not first or last, very rarely do we see teams stop at second. So this one has been full hold or completion kind of throughout the entire season. This one comes down to EMP. Is it going to be the most impactful ultimate in nearly any fight? Both teams have it. Shredlock is hacked, but he's going to get out early. So it's who can get better value out of the EMP. Ideally, you'd like to catch the opposing Sombra if they're somewhere near their team, but generally looking for big value targets here.
Shortwave taking the high ground again. You really do have to wait for your tanks, though, to be full HP before this EMP comes out. Kalec trying to bait a couple of cooldowns there, jumping in and out again. Nice little bubble from Fusion, stopping the hack going onto Punk, so he can't be instantly killed. Same thing actually went on to Shredlock there. There is the EMPs going out for the Uprising. Can they find any of the kills, though? That's the question. The EMP's actually already worn off at this point, and no one has gone down just yet. Fusion popping the Primal Rage to bash everybody away from the payload and trying to join the rest of his team yet again. Self-destruct lands on top of Blue Box. That surfed the roof there just a little bit. A beautiful EMP, though, coming out from the Titans. Jerry and Color Hex in a lot of trouble now, same with Halo. Luckily, he popped the wings to start off the fight, though, so he's still able to get around to the rest of his team, but the damage is there. The tanks have been killing off the front line before Halo and Myeongbong could heal them up. Dalton fix free, and that will be it. Finally, the payload is on the first point, and the shuttle stage, this hangar stage, can begin.
Just much greater EMP value there from Dalton, being patient on it to get 4 targets, whereas Color Hexes only got a few. And also give credit to Karkar during that EMP. He was able to stay alive and pop Valkyrie. Though he got picked off twice early in this game, his Valkyrie was able to save Shockwave. And Shockwave staying alive allows the EMP to be much more of a threat, because then the picks can come through a lot easier. Vancouver continue to roll another nano boost ready for them, although Myeongbong about to match it.
Talking in the back line, causing a bit of panic. Oh, Halo's going to get jumped on. Perfect double dive there with a nano boost onto Shredlock. Dalton finds 2. That's a nice little chunk of EMP charge as well. It's only 10% away. It's up to Boston now to kind of reconvene on the payload and stop this from going any further so they can actually get another fight in. They're going to use the nano boost to make sure that fight does end up happening, but Punk ends up getting slept. It's not a good look at all for the Uprising right now, as Punk also gets naded. The EMP is going to just rip through the Boston Uprising, and this is going to be the second point as well from the Titans. Boston Uprising, all they needed to do there was stabilize, but it was just a play from the Titans there. They ended up sleeping Punk as he was nanoed, and then they ended up hacking him, nading him. Like, there's so much was actually just thrown onto Punk there to try and stop him from stalling this payload out so the rest of them could group up again, and the Titans are on a roll now.
And for some people, it might look like overkill there for the Titans, but that is the point, that if you lose it right there, it is the worst possible place to lose a single fight, to have to come all the way back and give up all your progress. Also, by going overkill there, they're able to get these late stagger spawn kills to put themselves in great position to not even have to fight around first uphill. They're going to have to fight corner, and they're pretty much a single fight away. Preemptive Valkyrie comes out from Karkar.
Ooh, that was a headshot. There's the EMP. Instantly, Shredlock is eliminated, and that will at least be the payload holding. And you only need 1 ult there as well, so that's pretty nice. You save a lot of yours. And Jerry's got a nice little sightline 2. Res onto Rolf, though. However, look at how Boston Uprising are playing this. They're actually just pushing all the way in. They know Dalton hasn't got a translocator down, or it doesn't at least look like he has one. So Fusion's able to play up there. However, playing a little bit scared now. He knows the spawns are coming in.
Yeah, I mean, there is going to be sights for Jerry, which may deter the Titans from pushing in, especially with a DMAC onto KSA. He might want to try to get back here. Nope, he's just going to get sent right back to spawn. That's going to be a reset for the Vancouver Titans. And Boston's in a decent position when it comes to ultimates. They're going to have 4 up. The only one they don't have is EMP. Now, conversely, EMP is the most effective ult to be able to shut down the other team's ults. So if Dalton could get in good position here, he might be able to negate it all. Then that buys Vancouver. Never mind. Jerry shuts it down.
All right, well, go again, boys. Yeah, time to reset. There's no point fighting. They missed Nano as well. Oh, that sucks, actually, for the Titans. They already lost 2. They do manage to find the res, though, somehow. And now you can see Shredlock and KSA just trying to help Mercy staying alive. Both sides have been used too, so both teams can see each other. Shockwave has the priority Ang here, you can see on the high ground. Jerry can't really do much, even though he has the pocket. The Winston's going to launch himself to the high ground. Shockwave doesn't really know where he's going. Fusion's trying to bat him towards the rest of his team. However, he's going fairly low as well. 1v1 duel initiated, but Jerry ends up backing out. Self-destruct's being launched into EMP in the backline. KSA ends up going down. Color Hex to follow as well. Jerry on the flank. Oh, he saw him go to the high ground. Oh, you have to be careful, Shockwave. Jerry is actually in the backline, but Punk is already... Well, sorry, Shockwave's already dishing out damage. And Titans, they got really nothing to worry about. Jerry, what is he doing? He is dead. Well, he's dead now. Karkar ends up finishing him off. Jerry was in the background, and now Shockwave has a beautiful angle, and realistically, you can't lose this point now. If you have someone like Shockwave up on the high ground Hex, just clicking heads, is there anything really to lose? He's trying to kill Halo. He eventually does it. The Nano Boost went on to Color Hex to try and stall out for a little bit longer, but I don't think it's going to happen. Even with Karkar going down, this looks almost inevitable. Shredlock holding the doors. Yellow does find a kill to Wolf, though. In fact, this might be winnable, Hex. I take it back. Both supports are dead. A little bit of a clown fiesta towards the end, but 3 seconds remains in the Titans time bank. It doesn't matter. Shockwave is on high ground. He's dishing out the bullets, finding skulls, and that will be the completion. 3 points on the board now for the Titans.
Sometimes I mention those checkmate positions. I mention it a lot when we get to Hanamura, if you can take that high ground. If there were a single-player campaign for Widowmaker, this would be the training stage. You just get to set up on Gibraltar Bridge and click people as a... Because there's nothing to deal with them. If the other Widow isn't going to take you out, what are you going to do? Send your tanks up there and then leave your backline completely vulnerable? You can't do anything about it when the offense gets in position to set up their Widow either on back bridge or middle bridge. The other Widow is the one that has to deal with it, unable to do so. But yeah, that's the dream scenario if you're a Widowmaker. There's not even really sightlines. There's not really Angs, as you say, although you're not saving any time by not saying Ang gold. Whatever, I'm past it. But yeah, so like that's you're living the life. You're living the Widow life right there.
It's like you're playing a game of Rome Total War. Just kind of sitting there, just clicking on settlements, besieging them. That's exactly what Shockwave is doing, besieging the base of the Boston Uprising. Now the Boston Uprising on our attack. They've got a battering ram, they have a trebuchet, they're ready to rock and roll. Well, trebuchets no, it wouldn't be trebuchets, because trebuchets weren't around in the Roman times, but you
it's the
understand
superior
what I mean.
siege weapon. Everyone knows that.
A trebuchet? Well, yeah, they can lob a rock over 600 meters, so that does make a whole bunch of sense.
Get out of here, you're primitive catapult nonsense.
The primitive catapult. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I will accept that, but the superior battering ram of Jerry on the Widowmaker will win the day here. If he does find the headshot on Shockwave. Oh, the body shot. It'll do. It forces people down to the high ground, which is normally good enough.
Forces the tanks to, back out of the high ground so that they can peel for the team, and that's going to open up the generally free push of Car Wash. The fact that, Boston or Vancouver is even defending a little bit of that. Well, that opens things up for Shockwave.
That was cheating.
Not having to worry about the opposing Widow is nice.
Shredlock was assisting there with the kill onto Jerry, but I would have preferred you take the 2v2 with the Widow and Ash. The Widow and the Mercy. Bit disrespectful, but it's okay. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Sometimes you just let that fly in queue, but not today. We're not in queue, Hex. We're actually playing Overwatch League. Or we're rather watching Overwatch League. We're not playing it at all. I have gone on a stupid tangent, and I'm going to stop talking now.
Well, I mean, if you've been playing a lot of ladder lately, then this might be a nice reprieve from your ladder meta, because we are still on the previous patch. Of course, playoffs will be on the newest patch, so things are likely to change, but we're still rocking the Widow dive tank double shield kind of meta here. Early Nano onto Shredlock.
Yeah, the MP was huge as well. They caught Fusions and Punk, who were trying to go through the car wash. And they got washed themselves, and they're going straight back to spawn. Nice little hold again, but it's the same situation, right? I mean, you're going to be trading EMPs. The ideal situation here for Boston Uprising, they have Color Hex set up with the EMP after the sites have been popped. They go onto the tanks, and then you take the tanks out, and then you kind of roll from there. It's all about just trying to stop Dalton at this point from charging another EMP. Dalton and Color Hex have been fairly even up until this point. I always thought Dalton's Sombra was a little bit better than Color Hex's, but they're looking a little bit more even today. Both sites have been popped. So that's not going to be a situation where Uprising can combo the EMP here and just sniff out the tanks. Slowly but surely, Uprising are taking control of this high ground, though.
I mean, Boston is playing kind of the way they have all year. It's just a little bit slow, a little bit passive. They're very worried about Shredlock, who was in the back line. Both of the tanks were in the back line. Another kill on a Jerry. This has been quite the duel.
That was a really nice self-destruct as well. Unfortunately, KSC didn't end up going down.
Well, this is just reset now. You can't do anything. You just lost your resurrection mechanic too. So Boston is going to be banking on this next push to be off of the EMP. Dalton is nearly catching up now, and here comes a nano in from Boston.
Oh yeah, but Fusion's in like such an odd angle as well. Like he tried to jump to the background, but KSA was just sitting there, Hex. He couldn't really do much. Although he stomped Shredlock on Blue Box, who didn't even see him coming. He was turned the other way around. Fusion's going pretty low as well as Karkar goes for the res with the ult in mind. Fusion's now trying to do as much as he can in the backline and just kind of getting farmed. The payload is at least moving for the Uprising. 60 seconds does remain as the wings have been popped from Halo 2 to try and sustain them through this oncoming aggression. However, Dalton, sitting on an EMP of his own, will manage to build this one up, launches it out, does get slept in the end, but Fusions and Punk get hit. That bio grenade as well was huge in the assistance of killing off Fusions. And now it's this final fight territory for the Boston Uprising to try and land it on first point.
Yeah, it is the absolutely final fight for Boston here, and they've been unable to get progress. They have to win this fight. They're going to have an EMP and self-destruct to do it. That should push people into strange places at the very least, and maybe be able to pick up a couple of kills. Right now for Vancouver, the counter plays to try to keep Shredlock or Wolf out of that EMP so that you can get a stall out in either Primal. Oh, that hurts.
That hurts, man. Oh, he had sights up too, so he knew exactly where he was. Oh man,
they're turning it, and
good.
they rezzed it too, so it's not terrible.
And Jerry. No, this is it. This is surely it. Karkar goes for the res, and he manages to actually get Shockwave out too, at least. But I mean, Vancouver Titans could still defend here, Hex. They have two tank ultimates coming back. Punk's got this self-destruct. It's going to be up to Myungbong's Nano at this point to really do a whole bunch of damage. Self-destruct gets launched in on the payload. Shredlock does his best to try and get the rest of the Uprising away from the payload, and he kills up Colorhex in the process as well. Punk ends up getting Nano, trying to kill off the supports, but can't quite find the finishing blow. Punk going fairly low, launches self-destruct in. The bubble's going to disappear, but the tanks and the Titans are going to be able to get out just in time. KSA is coming back on the ball for some additional stall power, but Jerry, he's got the Widow, and he's got the kill. Karkar ends up falling. One less healer now to deal with as the Titans, they end up falling eventually. Shredlock and KSA trying their best to stall on point, but you can't mess with Jerry, who finds two of his own.
Yeah, the anti-heal takes down Shredlock, and that'll be all she wrote as Color Hex comes back on Old Man Legs, the Soldier 76, to clean that one up. I'd imagine you'll see KSA get off of the Hammond, back onto the Diva, try to take high ground here as we enter the shuttle phase of Gibraltar. And yeah, Boston had to get that one. There was some really nice back and forth plays between the supports as Karkar was able to barely stay alive. He pops Valk, but then they slept him on the high ground, and Jerry was able to clean up that kill. Jerry is just one of the best pure aimers we have. Ooh, Aimer gamer.
That was sick. That was a nasty shot onto Dalton there. Well, Jerry, more of that, please. Just have the cams on Jerry and Shock. Well, not anymore. Please put it on Shockwave as he gets flattened by Jerry. I told you, Heck, this was going to be the matchup we were looking for, right? Was Jerry versus Shockwave. Two of the best hit hand players on these two teams, if not the best players on their teams as well. And you can see exactly why. Shockwave does have sight, a beautiful jumping headshot onto Myungbong. I do not believe Boston Uprising actually have a res, and another shot onto Jerry. Can he make it a third? He's going in. He doesn't care. He's in the back line. He eventually gets killed off by Halo, who's gliding back down to earth. But he's already done the damage, really. I mean, that's what you... What? Halo? Okay, he's good. He's joined the rest of his team. He's just kind of waiting, just chilling out for a small moment. But that's what you really want, right, for your Widow player? A good Widow can really turn a match, whether it's ranked, like solo queue, or it's in Overwatch League. If your Widowmaker is popping off and is just on fire, there is nothing ready to stop it apart from an enemy Widowmaker that is on the same pace as it.
It's theoretically the hardest carry hero in the game. If you're hitting just, you know, if you theoretically hit 100% of your shots, you're never going to lose. 3 get EMP'd for Boston, however, they're the ones swinging kills, although Dalton comes in for the cleanup. I think Vancouver is going to push this one away. And what's so impressive about the Shockwave previous run is that he got Jerry once, they forced out the res, then he got another support, got Jerry again, and then Halo went down. It's pretty much 4 men who are killed based on just Shockwave alone.
Oh, he sleeps. Oh no, oh, he's not sleeping anymore. Myungbong got smacked. Unfortunately, he woke up. He's pretty woke right now. Color Hex. Oh no! Did you see Sherlock trying to jump through the door? Oh, that was sad. He leaped and got like small booped and he hit his head on the ceiling. Concussed, he fell over and he ends up getting eliminated. Still, they're holding on. Boston Uprising of 10 seconds remaining, Hex. This has felt like an entire fight just on this second point, and it's going to continue to do so, I feel. KSA trying to protect his mercy. Karkai still has wings. There's still an opportunity for Titans here to defend, but Boston Uprising, the ball really is in their court, and they rest Shockwave too. They're still controlling the payload for the time being, as wings have been popped from both sides. Hex trying to set up for a big hack. All he really needs is to get one of the supports, but it don't matter. Shockwave's just checking for him. Time and time again, Hex has just not been in this situation where he can't just be clicked on by Shockwave. OT is still here, and the Titans definitely have the spawn advantage in this position as well. Self-destruct on the point, clears it off the Titans, but it's up to Jerry now to try and subdue the supports and subdue Shockwave for long enough, but he ends up going to the payload to try and stall for some additional time. EMP's going to come out as well. There's the self-destruct, and there's the win for the Titans. Match point in the series as they take watch point Gibraltar. Yeah. We may have lost Hex. We may have lost Hex again, so it's just me. So anyway, Widowmakers, they're pretty good, funnily enough. And the point there was a good Widowmaker can really carry, right? At the end of the day. Oh, I'm on full screen too. Wow, you look at that. What a treat. What a treat for you all. But at the end of the day, it was going to be up to Jerry and Shockwave to just duel it out. And no real surprise. You're seeing the Widowmakers carry, and then the kind of waiting for the EMPs to build up, and it was just really Widowmaker pop sides, they build up the EMPs, and they go in EMPs, and then they hit a big nade. There's just so many little things that Vancouver Titans are doing so well, and in fact Rolf as well, just kind of carrying from the back line. As soon as the EMPs come out, he's got nade ready and waiting, throws it on the tanks. It's an instant team fight win at the end of the day. The tanks are hacked, they can't use any defensive abilities, and they end up going down. Vancouver Titans, they're up 2-0 in the series, so we're going to jump to a quick break. Hopefully we'll have Hex back for our third map. We'll see in a bit.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to the Game Break, presented by Cheesy Grooves. It's your guest host, Reinforce here, alongside my trusty analysts, Sideshow and Custa, of course. And so far, a pretty one-sided affair between the Vancouver Titans and the Boston Uprising. You know, we had some expectations of a competitive matchup going into this one. But so far, the Vancouver Titans are up 2-0. And as we headed into Nepal, we wanted to see some positive signs out of both of these teams. And we had some thoughts on both of these teams' compositions going into it. Custa, what stood out to you on Nepal?
I really had to question the Boston Uprising composition coming out on the first round on Village. And we've seen a lot of this Symmetra Junkrat as of late, especially last weekend, just having so much damage that it's oppressive and really hard to play anything. But Boston still comes out with a May McCree, which is kind of anti-synergistic if you're trying to play against this heavy damage. I'm kind of questioning why they went with this decision. We saw a mirror of it on Shrine, which made a little bit more sense, obviously, with the range and the flank angles and rushing down tanks. But once again, it still just didn't work out for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with their synergy, I think, over the course of Map 1. And it just continues into Map 2 as well. Like, when you look at Gibraltar, the Boston Uprising were really struggling to be able to get any kind of synergy between how their front line and how their tanks were working, a lot of mistakes in how they're operating. But what was nice to see from the Vancouver Titans' point of view is that they seem to have found a style that works for them. You know, KSA's being able to have a lot of anchoring kind of position on that Diva where it can threaten the front line and punish fusions but also peel for Rolf quite nicely. And then you have Dalton just setting up kills for his team, not required to be the star player anymore on the Genji, instead in more of that layup kind of role. And then Shockwave is just dunking people all over the place. So it's pretty nice to see from the Titans, but overall this has been a poor performance from Boston more so than anything else, I would say. It's just, while we were looking for signs of life, they've decided to close out the season in the same way that the majority of it has been going.
Well, we have been impressed by the Vancouver Titans these past few weeks. Costa, did you have any comments there on the Boston Uprising? You seem pretty keen.
It's not even their synergy on that last map. It's individual decision-making that I think is really hurting them a lot. I don't know how many times we saw Myeonbong use that nano boost on the Diva, which is almost always the worst target to put it on. He's anchored on the card, and yet he can't do anything when you nano him. And then on top of that, we have Jerry grappling in, going for the 9Ks every single time he goes for it, and he just gets punished every time. Even that one time, it actually worked. It didn't work any other time. And you really got to question the value of, you know, playing this almost, I said go solo queue. I didn't mean go this solo queue. There is some kind of aggressive levels that you should never go into at the Overwatch League level.
Boston are watching this like halftime break and being like, wait, we were listening to Coach Costa. He told us to go solo queue. What do you mean? And now you've abandoned them.
One of the bright spots on the Boston Uprising, sometimes, not always, was Jerry's Widowmaker, and it actually made it into our crunch time presented by Cheez-It Grooves, where he faced off against Shockwave on Gibraltar. And this was a head-to-head duel that we were keeping our eyes peeled on, because it's Gibraltar, of course. The Widowmakers make a ton of difference. Costa, taking a look at the statistics, what really stands out for you between these two players?
I think you got to look at the final blows that Jerry is having, and you saw this impact throughout the entirety of the match. He was getting more kills than Shockwave, and that sort of almost led to the Boston Uprising holding on that first point. But the issue that, you know, we see from the Uprising time and time again, as soon as that dried up, as soon as Jerry wasn't getting those kills, it really fell apart, and Shockwave started taking over the game. I think Shockwave was just more consistent throughout the entirety of the Watchpoint Gibraltar map.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you look at the final blows, you also have to look at the deaths, which are nearly double for Jerry. He's playing like some alternate dimension Spider-Man, you know, the one that gets killed eventually because he's just grappling in all the wrong places. That's exactly what Jerry was doing here. I'm convinced, actually, that Jerry and maybe even Shockwave have some kind of deal with SI Not Found, you know, the frag movie guy. Just, they've got to the end of the season and they're like, mate, the only way to improve my stock in the off-season is just to have a sick frag movie made about me. The amount of ridiculous grapple plays that Jerry was going
this jump here.
But then he's also hitting those sick shots.
It's just he's hitting good shots, but as you said, he's just going a little too wide, a little bit too at certain times. We saw in that last fight of the map, he grappled in onto the cart when it was not his job. He could have got a couple more kills. Just if he pulls it back just a little bit, Jerry, it could look better for the Boston Uprising.
All right. Well, the series is not over yet, of course. They're only up 2-0 so far, but the Boston Uprising, they have a chance to turn this around. And our third map is going to be Eichenwalde. Sideshow, what do you want to see from the Boston Uprising on Eichenwalde to turn things around here?
I want to see them have trust in each other. I think so many of these plays are being made because people feel like they have to solo carry. And I know it's been a terrible season. You guys haven't been performing very well. And so you feel like you need this solo queue mentality. But if you trust in each other and you don't have to go for these crazy plays, maybe you'll be able to eventually take a map off the Vancouver Titans.
All right, well, let's see if they can make it happen as we head over to our third match of the series. It's going to be Eichenwalde. Let's send it over to our casters. It's Jaws and Hex.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
He led the San Francisco Shock to the 2019 Overwatch League Championship and was named to the 2019 Roll Stars squad as a top tank. But he wasn't done yet. He also led Team USA to their first ever gold at the 2019 Overwatch World Cup. And this season, his team has one of the best records in the league heading into the playoffs. Now, he needs your vote for the 2020 Overwatch League All-Stars. Paid for by the Super for All-Stars campaign.
I'm Matt, and I support this message. Yeah, boy.
He's a two-time All-Star, and he led the Los Angeles Valiant to the second best record in 2018 and a Pacific Division crown. And that's not all. He's also played on 2 Overwatch World Cups for Team USA, helping win gold in stunning fashion in 2019. Now he needs your vote for the 2020 Overwatch League All-Stars. Paid for by the Space for All-Stars campaign.
I'm Indy and I support this message. That's right, baby.
Super says he's a role star. Super says he's a champion. But where was he when his team needed him at the start of the 2018 season? He was on the bench and too young to play. Grow up, Matthew. Grow up. Paid for by the Space for All-Stars campaign.
I'm Indy and I mostly support this message.
First, it was the Los Angeles Valiant, and now it's the Los Angeles Gladiators? Typical. Which LA team is it, Space? Indy Halpern. Just another Hollywood flip-flopper. Paid for by the Super for All-Stars campaign.
I'm Matt, and I support this message. What's going on, Indy?
Super says he plays the tank role, but recently, he spent an entire match goofing around on Genji. Really, Matthew? Genji? Paid for by the Space for All-Stars campaign.
I'm Indy and I kind of support this message. Tank up, my dude.
Space says he's a winner, but his LA Valiant finished under 500 and out of the playoffs in 2019. And now, his Gladiators are just barely trying to crack the top 10 in standings. Is it a failure to launch, or is he lost in the stars? Maybe we need to give him just a little more space. Paid for by the Super for All-Stars campaign.
I'm Matt, and I'm kinda iffy on this message. Sorry?
Super sad, staring into space. Every All-Star voting season, we hear the same partisan rhetoric from the same tired candidates. Isn't it about time we elected a tank that truly knows what it means to be an All-Star? A clutch player in the game, and the sex symbol of his generation out of the game. Also, did you know if you send NA Production a few loot boxes, he'll read anything you put on paper? Hey, wait a minute. A humble tank for the people who looks good in a diva suit. Vote McGravy for the 2020 Overwatch League All-Stars. Paid for by the McGravy's the best tank ever, eat it, nerds campaign.
I'm McGravy and I approve this message. Step your game up, boys.
Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Hipster, Nano Blade. Oh, through the Transcendence is perfect. Slash and dash as well.
그래요. 아슬아슬한 체력 케어 받고 나서 바로 야키가 킬. 그 다음부터는 뭐 속수무책이겠는데요.
Oh, they didn't even have the Transcendence, but Birdry managed to catch the support unawares.
야키.
아, 이거 깔끔하게 잘 썼죠. 공규 많이 쓴 게 아니라서 이 정도 뭐 만족할 만한.
Hello everybody, welcome back. It's me, Jaws, and other Hex joining me for the last map and the last series of the day. Or last map, maybe not last map. And hello other Hex, how are you?
Hello, it's me, Hex. I'm definitely not the Eggman, because, you know, you can see I have a full head of hair. It's hidden under this hat that definitely fits me at the moment, but I have a full head of hair. Definitely not the Eggman that you just saw on the analyst desk stepping in for Hex. Nope, absolutely real Hex.
Nope, that's impossible. In fact, I see two different people. It's ridiculous, actually, how much life your hair has currently under that hat. I can see it from here.
Thank you.
It's ridiculous. So, Mr. Other Hex, how do you feel about this map so far?
I'm interested to see whether Boston can turn it around. It's surprising to me, actually, how much Boston Uprising have been blown out by lower level teams so far this season. They've basically been 3-0'd or 3-1'd by all of the teams at the bottom level of the standings. And they've beaten the Gladiators, and they've had 5-map series against Paris Eternal. So occasionally, if Boston get the right hero pool, they can actually compete with some of these middle-of-the-pack to top-level teams. But most of the season, they've just been getting bodied by your Titans kind of level teams. And I thought perhaps that this might be one of those hero pools that favored them, because, you know, you just stick a damage boost onto Jerry and watch him go, maybe. But it hasn't quite worked out that way.
Yeah, it's been working the other way, in fact. I think Vancouver Titans, that's what they've been doing. I said it in the first couple of maps, right? You damage boost the DPS, the Widowmaker, the Ashe, or whatever you're playing, right? Your long-range hit scan, you DPS Shockwave, you DPS Jerry, and then just see who can click as many heads. And unfortunately, Jerry was beaten to the punch, unfortunately, some of the times, right? I mean, Shockwave, well, I think it was going fairly even with Jerry. It's just Dalton had better EMPs than Colorhex. Rolf was following up with the EMPs a lot better with the bio grenades. It was a tough map, last map, because Jerry was trying so hard to win on Widow. Like, but there's only so many heads you can click, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw it in the stats at the halftime. We saw that Jerry was leading in terms of the final blows, but I think he was also trying a bit too hard to get those kills, and he ended up dying way too much as a result of it as well. And Jerry, that's not your job. That's Shockwaves. He's the one that's 28th in terms of deaths. He's normally the one that gets kind of plays that high kill but high death kind of style on the Ashe. That's what perhaps we're going to be getting a flavor of here. I think Ashe is the more principled character to run in these compositions as well. All right, you have super long sightlines on Gibraltar, so maybe you want to run the Widow, but the Ashe is really good for this composition in general because it just provides more consistent damage.
Yeah, the Dynamites do so much work. We saw the stats, of course. His Dynamite damage is ridiculous. Bob kills as well, looking pretty good. Wow, Boston Uprising taking a rather lackadaisical approach, it feels, to the defense here. They're not really holding the archways you'd normally see. There's a deep off to the sidelines there, with Colorhex in tow as well. And they've kind of split up. It kind of does aid to the fact that Jerry is just going to be able to sit back and relax, I guess, and just kind of click heads. But you giving up so much space to Shockwaves is a dangerous thing. Ooh, that was, he's dead. He is dead, and there is no chance for res, because the rest of Vancouver Titans is just running over to his body, making sure that can't happen.
That was such a nice shot by Shockwave. He pre-aimed the angle and just dominated Jerry at the beginning there. And now Shredlock's got all of this positioning on the point. Myunbong, though, is going to get up to his nano boost really early on because his tanks have taken so much damage. So there's still potential for a recontest if they put it on the fusions.
Karkar? What happened there? Collex just walked at him, and Karkar just keels over. Myunbong now has the nano boost, goes straight onto fusions to try and stabilize the fight. Shockwave has Bob too, but it feels like, yeah, do you want to put it on point and just distract Fusion for long enough? The damage resistance only goes so far. Trelloc and KSA do bite the dust, however, and it's only Bob and, well, Shockwave on the point, and it looks like it's going to be a big reset here. Regardless of that first pick, it didn't really matter all too much. However, 2 ticks and a bit. Not a bad start. 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. And now it's up to Boston Uprising to play super aggressive here. EMP available rather soon. Oh, another, he just kills him again,
kill on
dude.
Jerry. You just can't allow that. The res, though, this time is going to come through. And Boston Uprising have got ults to be able to defend with here. Nano boost on the Shredlock, but Myeonbong, oh, he goes down as well.
Now, EMP is going to come out, hits Punk and Halo. And with Color Hex falling, there is no hope for Boston now, unfortunately. Shockwave, you can imagine, is going to build up to a bomb in this fight with the amount of HP bars still currently left. Fusions takes to the skies after it gets purpled, ends up falling back down to Earth and back down to his spawn. And that will be Vancouver Titans taking first point. They should be able to get a fair bit of space here as well, Josh. I mean, Fusions and Punk dying so late in the fight. Of course, normally it can't be helped. You're the tank with the highest HP, right? But the problem is now, look at the positions that Vancouver Titans have put themselves in.
Yeah, they're so far forwards. And even though Boston have an EMP to be able to work with and they're getting close to a nano boost, they're basically just going to have to take a team fight to knock the Titans off the high ground for starters.
Oh, that headshot to Jerry again, bro. Shockwave, Shredlock even just follows up instantly. Myeonbong falls. He doesn't get res, but Halo actually takes to the skies using his Valkyrie. I mean, now you're down an ult, and Halo even gets taken out by the Bob, adding another one to his stats. Fusions falls. This is it. Mate, this is point 2 done. I think now. I mean, Vancouver Titans just, what do they roll up? Color Hex used the EMP. Dalton's nearing his. What else can you really do off this? Look, he jumps in. The jump from Jerry up there. He was trying to get in a sight line of Shockwave. Of course, damage boosted left click from Ash does insta-kill 200 HP targets. But Shredlock just pounced on them both, killed both supports, and now they have prime positioning to take this point.
Yeah, it was also a really nice Bionade coming out from Rolf as well. Another thing that you were highlighting really well in the first 2 maps, both you and Hex. Real Hex, that is. Jerry tried to get up onto the high ground at the top level here, but we're going to see a nano boost out. Fusions, if he's able to get onto anybody, would be able to build up his primal, but he just can't find a target. They basically jumped without any intel of where people were positioned.
Yeah, and no intel about cooldowns as well, right? The Coast Guard does so much work to stop a Winston from diving on your backline, and a little bit of extra damage to boot as well. Fusions ends up going down. Bob is hacked, and look how sad Bob is when he's hacked, sad. He's just sitting there all slumped over, pure gamer posture. Unfortunately, he's going to fall to KSA, booping him off the bridge, and that will be it. Another Bob kill for Shockwave. Just adding to those stats. Oh my word, 4 minutes in the time bank. How do you feel about this when you're in queue? Like 4 minutes on last of Eichenwald, you're like, well, I mean, this sucks. Like, they have Sombra, they only need 1 big EMP and it's going to be done and dusted, really.
I mean, I always personally believe in my own individual ability to turn around games because I'm a god gamer. But, you know, if I was you, then yeah, I would have already given up.
Yeah, please tell me more, Josh, after this fight proceeds. Shredlock is booping away Jerry. That's the best thing that Shredlock can do, I feel, is just make sure he pays attention to Jerry, stop him from dealing damage to Shockwave. He does end up getting taken down after a nice little hack from Dalton. From Color Hex even. Fusions finds himself in the thick of it all as well. A resurrection does come through onto Shredlock, but Karkar pays for it with his life. Feels like Titans just want to go for a reset here. They know the spawn advantage is very much in favor of Boston Uprising, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
Karkar's going for the most risky reses imaginable, but honestly, you're against the Boston Uprising. They don't have the team coordination to be able to punish you a lot of the time. That time they did, though. Color Hex found a hack onto Karkar, and the dive was there, the punish was available, and they managed to turn that fight around. And the Vancouver Titans are going for full-scale team comp swaps here. They're going for double shield, which is pretty powerful towards the end of Eichenwald. Those shields are still really good when it's a very one-dimensional, claustrophobic kind of style. There's a lot of pressure now on Fusions to be able to stay alive and just build nano boost charge from Myeonbong, because once that nano is up, nano will be able to turn things around.
That's a thick EMP. That landed on 5 people. Shockwave is the only survivor, and no hack, but Shredlock going down is not a good start. And they don't have Mercy anymore as well, like you said, because they comp swapped, so you can't res that. There's the EMP. Oh my god, Jerry just lining up. Oh, he's playing duck hunts. Dalton, Shockwave dead. That's it, it's done. Go again. And Shredlock and KSA, I mean, because they've swapped up here as well, Josh, you are so far behind in ult charge. Like, Shredlock's not going to have a good time actually getting damage done because Boston Uprising can play so split too because they have dive tanks. They still have 2 minutes to be in the front line.
They still have 2 minutes to build up those ults, so they will still get a period of time where they have an ult advantage unless Boston are really smart with how they rotate things around. Galax into the back as well. He's only at 30%. The Primal is the only big tool that they have available here to counter the Vancouver Titans, and their neutral game is better for the Titans, that is.
Most definitely. That's a lot of damage from Dalton, man. Look at those bombs just getting sent towards their spawn. Self-destruct's going to come out. Luckily they got a Lucio to speed everybody into cover. And now Shredlock in a little bit of trouble. But Fusion is a little bit more so. He saw the opportunity to jump in after the self-destruct came in, after the space was created, but his team didn't really seem to be on the same page there at all. Jerry's got a bomb coming up rather soon that could save them on this point, but a big bio grenade will land in aid Vance, most definitely, but you need to actually follow up on it. The Titans using double shield. You can't really get instantly taken down when you get naded. And now Shockwave's in a good position. Punk also ends up falling after losing his mech. The Bob's going to do a whole bunch of work, but even Karkar saving his support in the backline. I mean, that's it. What else does Fusions do? Well, they can Shredlock, actually, as soon as I say that. The EMP is available for Boston Uprising as well, so still in a good position on the defense. Vancouver Titans have one more attack. However, those tank ults have eventually gotten built up. They've got Supercharger, they've got Flux as well, but this beat is going to have to save them from this EMP, otherwise it could be lights out.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? There's not much damage also coming out from the Boston Uprising. They don't have that Primal, they don't have the Nano Boost currently available, but it's all on Karkar here. He needs to be ready. And it looks like Myeonbong is hiding around the corner, waiting to maybe get a big EMP bio nade. That's got to be the plan, right? Oh, and Jerry already falls.
There's the bio grenade. Lands on Shockwave, but the beat comes out just in time. KSA may have fallen though, and all that chaos made sure that they could get the res onto Jerry too. So Boston Uprising now at full fighting force. Dalton sends out the tire. I believe Myeonbong's maybe still behind. Tire's going to just sit on payload for the time being. It looked like he's pushing it, but it ends up getting taken out by Jerry, who's damage boosted. Oh my god. The tire was creating space.
The payload.
Yeah, it was. It was pushing it. It was an extra wheel. It made 7, so it can move a little bit faster. There's the flux. KSA manages to isolate Fusion as they move it forward. OT is here, but the kills are here for the Titans. Boston Uprising can't quite get it back. It was the 7th wheel at the end of the day that made sure they could launch the payload in. 3 points on the board, but they haven't got any time left.
He was just trying to blend in. He was trying to disguise himself so he wouldn't hang out with the other wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, Boston weren't quite able to hold that. I think I love the proactive nature of using the EMP and the Bionade to instantly take out KSA. Obviously, the tire didn't find too much value, although it did buy a bunch of space. I'm just not a big fan of how Boston Uprising always gives so much space to the Vancouver Titans. They always let them in so much. And I know that playing at a higher tempo requires more team coordination. It requires better players to make faster decisions on the fly. But a lot of the time, Boston are waiting, in my opinion, too long to invest these ults, so that they're having to like save themselves from an advantageous position that the Vancouver Titans have already established. Whereas if they try and rotate their ults a bit faster and play at a higher tempo, they're going to also be able to generate the ults quickly, keep the Titans on the back foot, and keep these fights more in favor of Boston all the way. Because really the reason that they lost that final engagement was because they didn't have the ults to be able to stand up to the Vancouver Titans' final attack.
I mean, it could be... Oh, here's the B, actually, that ended up saving them. Oh, dude, did you see how close he was to that spear EMP? Oh my word, that was... that could have been disastrous.
Shockwave nearly died as well, so it's a good job he was that close, because otherwise Shockwave may have also fallen. It was a very nice play from Myeonbong and Colorhex.
There's definitely a point I want to get into about what you just said there about the investment of ults from the Boston Uprising. Because I really do feel they're maybe waiting for the perfect scenario, but that never normally happens in Overwatch. That perfect setup is like 1 in a million. More often than not, because people are playing around it.
You have to make your own opportunities in these scenarios. You can't just wait for them to drop into your lap.
And you could sometimes compare, you could even compare that actually to the Shanghai Dragons, where they just EMP one person and instantly kill them. That's not a perfect situation at all, because you're not EMPing more than one person, right? But at the end of the day, if you can follow up on it, you win the fight, because that person is going to instantly fall over.
Also though, Jack, I never really want to hear you compare the Boston Uprising to the Shanghai Dragons.
No. Okay, you need to stop, okay? You're putting words into my mouth. I wasn't comparing them, I was comparing strategies.
The Titans here are running the same kind of attack that they ran for point C, but on defense this time. And it comes down to this nano boost, in my opinion. The nano is needed to go onto fusions to buy a bunch of space here.
Oh! And he fell over! Oh, no! Disaster has struck. He has nano. He is jumping to backline. Dalton boop him away, and now Fusions does nothing and is sad. He is now going to walk to his backline as Jerry dies to the Bob.
These dives are tragic, honestly. And it's not just Fusions, although I don't think he's finding his targets. It's like they need to know where the targets are that Fusions is trying to jump onto. And then they also need to try and force out a couple of these cooldowns that will stop his dives being negated. Because you shouldn't nano your Winston and then find 0 value. That's what your entire composition revolves around. Being able to chain these nano boosts into buying space for the rest of your team and then comboing the EMPs.
Good pick. No res either on the Titans side, as they've got a Lucia and a Bab, so getting Dalton out of the way here is just perfect as well, because that's one less tool you can actually boot the Winston away. Kalec setting up for an EMP in the background. He has to hit Rolf here. If he doesn't hit Rolf, it could be all over. Rolf doesn't get hit. Window comes out as well as that Immortality field. A giant purple from Myunbong though. Both hit KSA and Shredlock to save them. Oh my word, that could have been disaster if Wolf managed to keep the rest of the team alive, but Myunbong setting up almost perfectly. Punk did lose his mech, but he's still on point, gaining capture percent, and they do res Myunbong as well, as they have the space to do so. Here's the tire over the top. Dalton trying to find somebody, but Jerry ends up getting it. Well, actually, Jerry's Bob. It wasn't even Jerry. The Bob took it out of the air, and
Bob
the point
MVP.
gets capped. Yeah, Bob MVP.
Just doing the work there. That was a nice play, actually, from Myunbong in particular, but the Boston Uprising finally kind of sync a team fight together off the back of the EMP coming out from Colorhex. And they're proactive there. I liked it. They put the pressure on the Vancouver Titans. They didn't allow them to, the Titans to set up with their ultimates. I think that pressure needs to continue being applied, but not when Jerry's down. Might have to back up for a moment.
Instant res though. I like the way they're using Nano here actually. They used the Nano to try and get the res out. So they managed to not only keep Fusions in the fight, and basically you get to ignore him for a little bit because the damage resistance is there, plus obviously the Primal Rage as well. So Halo doesn't have to concentrate on healing. He can just go for this res. However, Shockwave just existing with Supercharger is good enough to win the fight there. Color Hex and Myunbong end up getting clicked off.
And the Nano Boost and the Primal are invested onto Fusions there, right? Like, this guy is almost unkillable. But instead of making space for the rest of his team, he went for picks instead. And so the rest of his team just died to the Supercharger because Fusions hadn't made the space and secured that corner and secured positioning for the rest of his team. So I think that was another failure of how the tanks are making space and utilizing these ultimates on Boston.
Shockwave is still doing so much damage. You think about the actual attack from the Titans, how quickly they were able to take high ground. Completely different story here. Of course, Titans do have a different comp on the defense. Shockwave, just look at the damage he's doing. Plus, he puts Bob on the payload. Like, there's actually nothing the Uprising could do at this current moment in time. He's just waving at them. He just taunting them straight up.
Yeah.
And Jerry is in the back line. All right, well, he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry doing Jerry things like he was on Gibraltar as well. That's a nice punish, actually. I don't think Shockwave had any idea that Punk and Colorhex were down there. I mean, why was Shockwave down there as well? It's the question of the Ashes in wild positions. But now that the Boston Uprising are getting close to some big ultimates, the EMP and the Nano particularly, we can start to turn around this corner. But Dalton could still respond. If he clutches out with the tire, it could be enormous.
Is it going to die again? That is the question. Colorhex is already dead, though. There's the tire. Oh! That's a triple kill. That made up for every tire beforehand. Beautiful. Halo, Jerry, and Fusions end up going down. They're going to respawn and buy themselves some extra time here as well. Look at this. 1 minute and 40 seconds remains for the Boston Uprising. Struggle streak currently.
This has to be the fight right now. Fusions needs to take the Nano Boost, push space out, or push to make space rather, and Colorhex needs to hit a big EMP and they need to find kills out of this. Karkar's just hiding around because he knows this EMP is coming through, but they can actually just play with the nanos.
Oh, great hack! Are you kidding me? If he dies now, this could be all over. Colorhex taking a lot of damage, but Jerry and his Bob end up biting the dust. However, Halo at least gets the resurrection. But all the meanwhile, Colorhex dies. Shockwave had the window straight in front of him too, so they couldn't even touch the payload, Josh, because the angle that Shockwave had with the amplification matrix was too great. And now they have to go for the reset again.
I mean, they didn't try to punish Karkar whatsoever, and they also didn't try to go for the EMP engage past the window. They just kind of played a little bit of both, where they hacked Karkar, and then they jumped off, and then they realized, oh, we're going to die if we don't invest further, so they back off again. Now they've got 45 seconds, double tank ults available for the Titans. Dalton's going to get up to his tire at some point during this engagement as well, and Myunbong doesn't even have the Nano Boost. If Vancouver Titans just back up here, it's going to look bad.
There's the engage. Self-destruct kills Shockwave of all people. over the top, and now Fusion's being able to take that space like you're talking about. He's going to jump to the high ground yet again. Kaka, he's been there the second time, so they almost kind of know where he is going to be. And they still have EMP available. With high ground too, and Jerry sitting up there. Good start, Rogue dead, nice. Now they can get the payload moving. However, OT is just around the corner, Josh. They've got EMP, however, if Shockwave is able to kind of skirt around the EMP as well, they can not only use the beat, but they can use the bob to buy so much room and stop this payload from moving too.
The bob beat.
Bobbing beat. The beating bob.
The beating bob, that sounds great. And Dalton as well has the tire available on the Titans as well. EMP catches him though, but Kaka there, just so solid.
Yeah, and Bob's going to come out as well. Fusion's fight of his life and the position of his life as well. This is perfect for a Winston to knock people away, but look at his health bar all down to sub 200 HP, and Dalton nails the tire straight on his head. Literally lodged it between his eyes, and that will be it. The Titans are going to be able to hold Boston Uprising just before the second point and take the series clean 3-0. The Boston Uprising had such a good opportunity, but it was the supports really and Shockwave playing around that EMP so well. They were able to get the beat out. Fusions were trying to engage with the Primal Rage and the Nano Boost. Didn't find anything and got torn apart. And the Titans are going to take the series. Oh man, Boston, you got to feel bad for them at some point, right, where please take the hat off, Josh.
What do you mean?
It's killing. It's killing.
No, this is my look when I'm casting, all right? It's so that people don't spam the egg in the YouTube chat. You know, I have to differentiate
You are
myself
hacked with
between
egg
casting
now.
Josh. Exactly, I get a hat with egg.
You are hacked with egg.
I think, though, that the Boston Uprising had good opportunities to be able to take team fights and keep their momentum going, but they always lost half of those good opportunities. Some of them they won, but some of them they totally squandered. And that just ruins your momentum. If you're only winning half of the times where you should win, when you should have a huge advantage and you still only convert 50% of those, that's obviously going to hamper your momentum and mean that the time is just dwindling as you get into these, what was there, like 40 seconds left on the clock as they went for that final push. If anything goes wrong there, you're stuffed, and there's a lot of ults available for the other side. So Vancouver Titans again come out with another clean 3-0 beat over the Boston Uprising. They have beaten Boston 3-0 every single time this season.
Consistency is key, and one of the most consistent players, and I said he was the best player, I think, on the Titans roster. I find it hard to believe that someone could argue against it, but your Xfinity player of the match is going to be Shockwave. His Widow play on ping, mind you, as well, is just absolutely stellar. Ash has been just crazy as well. That downward flick there was also tasty. And what more could you really ask for from your hit scan player, especially in a meta where Widow and Ash are so dominant? Shockwave is just performing exceptionally well on both of them.
Yeah, I want to see Shockwave in a good team for next season. I mean, I would also like to see the Vancouver Titans playing on low ping and flesh out their roster and look a bit more competent and have a good coaching staff and this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, Shockwave needs to be on a team that has some potential, I think. And then I think we'll see truly what his skill ceiling is. I don't think we've scratched the surface of Shockwave's skill ceiling, or really a bunch of other players on the Vancouver Titans as well, because of the difficult circumstances in which they've been playing so far in 2020. But Shockwave truly does look like a standout player within this Titans roster. His ability to perform not just on the hit scan, but also on projectile heroes like the Echo and the Genji, when we've seen him pick that up as well, although normally because he's duplicating the Genji whilst playing Echo. He's looked really strong whenever he's been able to play those heroes. And bear in mind, guys, he's currently in Denmark. He's having to send his packets halfway around the world in order to receive information
via
back
boats.
to his eyeballs.
Yeah, it's via
Carrier
boats,
pigeon.
Carrier pigeon or a cargo container. He has to put them on there, load them up, and send them away.
He gets his bob to send the internet packets back and forth.
Yeah, he's farming them so
runs
much.
out with a packet.
We're going to jump to a quick break. Me and Agman will see you in a minute. Don't go anywhere, guys.